Hi everybody, welcome back. I decided to redo my video on my sealed Beatles collection because the last one came out so scratchy, the audio, it was almost unlistenable. So anyway, start off with Meet the Beatles, Capitol's first release of the Beatles in the States. And this one has the original Sears baggie on there. When Capitol Records started releasing this record, they didn't have a shrink wrap on the album, interestingly enough, and so Sears decided to go ahead and wrap it up themselves. And so you see the red dots on the corners that says Sears, Roebuck and Company, and that is the original bag that the record came in. This one is opened and the record is thrashed, but I still thought it was kind of neat to have that one. And then we have the Beatles' second album. These are all unopened, like I was saying, and they're all sealed up, and I try to get them in mint, as close to mint condition as I can get them. And sometimes, that's almost nearly impossible to do, but you just keep on buying them, and then hoping that someday actually you do get a mint record that's been unopened. I was going to show you something here to tell what an issue of a record is. Now if we look at on the back here, you've got what's called the RIAA logo, and there's a little number next to it, and the numbers that run 3 through 6, those are going to be first issues usually. And anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. That's kind of one way you can tell if a record's an early issue or not. Number 3 is Syracuse, and number 6 is Los Angeles. And then we got some of these other records that the Beatles put out here, unopened. Help. This has the pasted on cover. All the early issues had pasted on covers, as opposed to the covers, the artwork being printed directly on the cardboard or the poster board. And you can see the seam, not with this video, but right along the edge here, there's a seam where the paper is glued on to the cardboard on the other, right behind it. Now that's an interesting fact if you think about that. When you think about one of the most popular records that the Beatles had, one of the most popular collector items was the so-called Beatles Butcher album. Now that album disturbed so many people that Capitol said, "Hey, look, we better slap another cover on there." So they did do that, and then this is what the artwork came out looking like when they slapped the cover, literally glued it on over the top of the Butcher cover. Now, unfortunately for me, this is not an original Butcher, but it's a pretty nice example of the issue that came out immediately afterwards. And if you was a Butcher, you would see a little V right here, a little shadow of a V, a dark color under there, where you could see the Ringo's turtleneck. Anyway, moving along here a little quicker here, early Beatles, and Revolver, groundbreaking record, huh? And followed up by another groundbreaking record, which was the Sgt. Pepper's. I have a letter of authenticity for this guy from Perry Cox. Perry, as you guys might know, is one of the world's foremost authorities on Beatle memorabilia collecting. Anyway, that is a mono version of Sgt. Pepper's, which was the very first issue of Sgt. Pepper's, and that was the way that the Beatles intended for people to hear that record, was mixed in mono, interestingly enough. It is a first issue, and I also have the first issue in stereo. And moving along here, Magical Mystery Tour, kind of a flop for these guys, unfortunately, but man, that record was great. Where else are you going to hear I Am the Walrus, huh? So that is a first issue. Also first issue, unopened Yellow Submarine. And what else we got here? White Album. Unfortunately, this is not a first issue for me. I had to sell my first issue. I needed the money. But if it were, there would be an embossed section right here where it would say the Beatles, and then a number that would be printed below on there. I'll tell you guys in later videos how to spot an original wrapping, as well as some good materials for you guys to read and for information's sake, so you can know what you're looking for if you decide to do this crazy hobby like I am. Anyway, here's a first issue unopened Abbey Road, and the way you can tell this is a first issue is there's a little rectangular area down here where there's this little sewer grate, and then it doesn't say on the back here Her Majesty, so that would not be on the back there. Anyway, if you have those two elements together, then you've got a first issue. First issue, Hey Jude, and same thing with the Let It Be on Apple Records, and of course we know that that's the last thing that the Beatles put out, or the last thing that was released while the Beatles were kind of still together, huh? After that, it was all old material, just recompiled and re-released, and we started with these guys here on Apple Records, the 67 through 70, and then the 62 through 66. They're just, hits that I guess they randomly picked out. Well, maybe not so random, but anyway, certainly not all of their songs that they came out during those years. They also came out with a record called Beatles Rock and Roll Music, the greatest music ever sold. Oh, what a sticker that is. Anyway, they ended up releasing that as a double album, and they ended up coming out with a single albums that comprise all the same music, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And we also have Rarities, which has got a lot of unreleased Beatles stuff, previously unreleased. Some of that stuff had come out, like, for instance, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, real hilarious song, a really funny song that the Beatles came out with. I think it was on the back of a Hey Jude 45, if I'm not mistaken. And then we've got 20 Greatest Hits. And then we've got the Live at the BBC, a triple album set. A lot of good material in there. And then some of the more interesting stuff that was released as of late are the Beatles anthology records. And we got 1, 2, and 3. And if you haven't heard these, I really suggest you check them out, because they are so interesting. You can hear, for instance, John putting together his very first demos on just his own voice and guitar, Strawberry Fields Forever, and you hear him struggling with it and trying to play his own song. And it really, the material on these things, I suggest anybody who loves the Beatles to check out this music on CD or the DVD that came out with this series. But the records are much more interesting because they go into more depth about the music itself. Anyway, hope you like my collection here, and I think this one came out a lot better than the last one that I tried. And in the future, like I say, I'll be going over materials for to help you, books to help you know what you're looking for, and then also just some things about how to bid on eBay if you're going to be buying this stuff, and I don't know how to spot a record that's the genuine article rather than a rewrapped version, because there are a lot of rewrapped records out there, and you can be fooled by them. I know I was in the beginning. Anyway, I guess that's about it for now, and we'll be getting back to you a little later on. Take care, and thanks a lot.